the next hour, you're listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast, broadcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Classic Auto Mall is a world-class facility conveniently located just an hour west of Philadelphia on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The building is over 336,000 square feet and is full of over 650 classics for sale and 300 barn finds on display. Check out all the inventory on the website, classicautomall.com. If you have any questions for our host or guest, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. Now on to the show with our host, the president of Classic Auto Mall, Stuart Howden.
Well, thank you, Steve, and good morning. I think we got a little echo going on here this morning. We've only been gone for 3 weeks now. I think we didn't have a show on Christmas Day, and we didn't have a show on New Year's Day, and we're back. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. We had an amazing year last year. We consigned 1,059 vehicles and sold 834. And we started out the year, I think, with about 400 cars in inventory when we started 2021. So an amazing year. You know, hats off to the guys in the crew and my car specialist and all the back office and just everybody here. It takes a village
Yep.
to sell a bunch of cars like this. Because, you know, most of the dealers we talk to, new car dealers, used car dealers, they always say, we've got 6 title clerks and 7 office managers and 8 people that do this. And I'm like, oh my God, what is your payroll like? Of course, maybe not as high lately with everything that's going on. I mean, I went to the bank yesterday. I couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm, really?
It was closed. The lobby was closed. They don't have the help.
Short staff everywhere.
Yeah, short staff everywhere because somebody had something was wrong, cold, flu, something. So, but anyway, we're back. This week is Mikkum Kissimmee, which is 3,500 cars. Makes us sound pale in comparison to what they're doing, you know. They, an amazing organization that did really well with television, and it certainly made a huge difference to their business. You know, Mikkum was just a regional auction for many, many years, and they'd have 200 or 300 cars at their sale, and then all of a sudden television. Mm-hmm. And I think originally they bought time on some obscure network and literally paid for their own time on there, kind of like Kerbeck does on PBS on Saturday.
I remember
mornings.
it wasn't nearly as flashy and fancy as it is now.
It's quite flashy and fancy. But you know, they've done a great job of exposing the hobby, them and barret-jackson, of exposing the hobby to millions of more people, and you know, all of a sudden the hobby has become more of a business, especially if you look at the fact. Haggerty going public 3 weeks ago, yep. $3.2 billion valuation. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Did we ever? I mean, if we can't, I don't know that you can still call it a hobby anymore. when you have a $3.2 billion valuation on an insurance company, and you know, I would have guessed a lot less had I known. But anyway, so if you get a chance, if you're down in South Florida, go check out Mikkum at Kissimmee. It's an amazing show, and you know, people say, well, golly, aren't you in competition with the auctions? And you know, to some extent we are, but you know, there's room for everybody. You know, when we go to other auctions or other events, we talk up our friends who are in the business. I have lots of friends who are dealers and auction companies and that kind of thing. And you know, we talk them up. It's all one for all and all for one. So congratulations to them to continue to do as well as they do down there. And then we've got coming up in Scottsdale towards the end of the month, we've got RM and Gooding and all those guys. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out through all the pandemic and cancellations and closures and that kind of thing. I think downtown Philly just now says if you want to go to a restaurant, you got to have a vaccination card. Mm-hmm. So there's no, you know, I got a test a day ago or 2 days ago or none of that. You got to have a vaccination card or you can't come in. So
great. I'm sure that'll be great for business.
Yeah, it's only, you know, sticking more of a knife in the back. But you know, listen, I'm good on the grill. That's the one. You know, that's one thing that I'm really good at. And I can cook the steak. So as long as Kathy gets everything else done, I can come home and put the steak on the grill and sip my glass of wine and listen to my Sonos speakers out there, and that's my thing.
Downtown Philly won't miss you.
They will not miss me. And that's a long trek to Philly from here. So, but now we have a casino which has restaurants in it. So
have you eaten there yet?
I have. We ate at the sports bar twice or 3 times now.
It's a bar stool, right?
It's a Barstool Sports, and we've eaten there 3 times, which is embarrassing to say because it's only been open for 4 days. No,
you're regulars there.
Yeah, they know my name. Have a little plaque on the bar. Yeah, the usual Mr. Howden. Yes, we'll put your name on a plaque on the front there, and it's a neat place. But they're struggling, trying to find help, and a casino requires an inordinate amount of people. I mean, you're at the craps table, and there's like 6 people there, and there's one guy, and I don't even know what they all do, nor do I even really understand craps, but I play and pretend like I hoop and holler, and video poker's my game.
Get Kathy to
blow on the dice, yeah. But I like to stick with video poker because if I make a mistake, I'm not hurting anyone but myself.
But there's no, not to like talk up the casino, but there's no change sound there. It's coinless or whatever they call it.
Well, no, they say it's cashless, but you can still play cash. Yeah, but there's options to play without cash. But no, there's not. When you hit the slot machine, you don't hear all the quarters falling out. Ching, 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 ching. But there are noises in there, and I'm certain they're designed to do something.
Right. It's kind of like when they the Tesla with the fake exhaust sound.
Exactly.
Fake change noise.
Yeah. Well, it's like a golf cart in here. One of the downfalls you notice at Hershey and Carlisle and here is the guys have little tin cans tied onto the back of their golf carts, and the reason they do that is so people will know they're coming.
Yeah.
Because if you're walking through and you're looking at all the cars, you're not paying attention. Right. And same in our building here. We have these electric golf carts. And, we're come up on somebody and they don't hear you. And all of a sudden they turn around and go, oh, there you are.
Those things cook, too, those little golf carts.
And mine cooks the most.
You got a souped-up electric golf cart.
I have a souped-up electric golf cart, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So if they start to get in my way, I know which way to, that I can beat them all. Boy, we're
big crowd
this morning, I tell you.
Well, it's a nice winter activity. This is a great thing when you're jonesing for a car show. Yeah. Come to a Classic Auto Mall.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some shows going on this weekend. I think we're in Allentown doing, I think, the swap show or whatever.
Oh, that's right. That's
there.
Coming up,
that's this weekend.
Carlisle
thing. And then we got the Philly Auto Show coming up in March, which we're excited about. And we've made some concessions this year. We're going to be in a different area, but they're going to really promote it, and hopefully it'll be as good as in the past. And they love having us there because it's a different diversion. Although you have to be very careful with the cars in roping them off there because most of the manufacturers will allow people just to climb all over them. Right. And we, of course, cannot do that because we can't just go replace the Grand Cherokee with another Grand Cherokee. We've got, a one-of-one car down there. And
you had a couple years ago, I guess last time you were there, Yenko. You had a Yenko out there?
Yeah, we had a Yenko. We had a Cobra, the real Cobra. We had a real
Cobra.
Yeah. Right. We did the Harrisburg new car show, and they didn't have any stanchions for us, and they opened the gates and doors, and oh my God, people were just all over the cars, and we had to just quickly try to disperse the crowd. But anyway, so here we are, 1,056 cars sold, or 853 cars sold, 1,056 cars consigned for last year. I mean, phenomenal. About 25% better than we projected of what we would do this year. And this coming year looks to be just as good. The market in the collector car world, knock on wood, is still good, and it seems to be good. And we hear a lot of horror stories about businesses that are not doing well, and I feel for my brothers in business because being in any type of business is not easy. It's just not easy. And people say, oh, how cool, you're in the classic car business. They don't understand. It's a business. It requires all the same trappings of everything else, And, it's one of those things that I'd much rather be doing this than a lot of things. But it's hard. But the good news is that we have a loyal clientele. We have a great staff. We're able to motor through just about everything. And last year we said, when the pandemic hit, we locked the doors and laid everybody off, and the phones kept ringing. People kept buying cars. We just weren't consigning cars. So we came back strongly this year, and to sell that many cars in 1 year is pretty amazing. And hats off to everybody, including my bride Kathy, who I don't know how she does what she does, and then puts up with my shenanigans. But anyway, and if you find a car here that you like, we have a great program. You give us $500 and it's completely refundable to hold the car for you until you can either get it inspected or come out and take a look at it for yourself or get your funds together or whatever the case may be. So if you see something you're like, don't hesitate, because the guys will tell you, oh, you're going to miss it. Somebody else, and everybody says, well, that's an old salesman talk.
Right,
You're
right.
not going to miss anything. You know, you got 700 cars in here. Why is that one going to sell next? The reason being is because somebody else is on it. And so it sparks something.
I've seen cars on the floor, not yet on the website.
Right.
And then, like, I go to do a 4 on the floor or something, and the car is gone before it even got a ticket.
Yeah. Well, we have clients who come in here who literally are looking every day, every week, and they see, you know, what's new, what's next, what came in. And we know what they're looking for, so we call them and as well and let them know ahead of time to say, hey, by the way, we've got a 69 Z28 in, and it looks like just like the one that you were looking for. So so don't miss it. If you find something that you like, give us a deposit, have it inspected, do whatever it is you need to do, and we'll hold it for you for a few days or maybe a week if we're feeling really nice. But some of the new stuff we got in the past, 3 weeks now since we've been on the air. We were off Christmas Day and New Year's Day were both our Saturday days, so we've been off. But we got and I love these cars, a 1970 Buick Skylark convertible. I think that's just a really cool body style. And this one's in velvet, jewel green.
Beautiful car.
Yeah, 40,000 original miles. Got the 350 in it. It's not a high performance,
It's not
car.
the GS version.
Not the GS version, not the 455 or whatever, but still a very cool
Beautiful car.
Yeah, really, really an iconic look, I think. Maybe it's just me because the cool kid down the street had one or something.
Yeah, my grandmother had one, actually, a hardtop.
Well, that ruined it for me.
Well, I mean, she was a young, hip grandmother when I was a kid.
Have you seen the thing on Facebook where it's got our grandmothers were way hipper? You know, they had the bell bottoms on and the tube tops or whatever. I don't know what a tube top is. But anyway, that's a new consignment that we've gotten in. We've got a later model new consignment, a driver quality, if you will. And we've talked about driver quality vehicles that we have here. If you're having a tough time finding a car at your local used car dealer or new car dealer, we have cars that kind of fit the bill for a daily driver. One of them being the 06 Dodge Magnum SRT 8 wagon, which has got a Magnuson supercharged 6.1 liter Hemi. So it's
Sharp
and fast.
Yep.
And it's one owner. It's got a beefed up 5-speed manual or automatic transmission. Excuse me. Don't write and tell me that I got it wrong. I know.
Or write and tell us we got it wrong. Stay in touch.
Yeah, just at least we know something. Can somebody just please send us an email? That's just all we ask. Podcast@classicautomall.com, just so we know that somebody's out there. So I was going to tell you before we went to break, which we didn't get an opportunity to, that we've got an amazing guest with us today. We've got Mr. Steve Moskowitz, the CEO of the AACA. That's a lot of acronym. I like that. The Chief Executive Officer of the Antique Automobile Club of America. Good morning, Steve. Thank you for being on the show.
Good morning.
We are thrilled to have you here and thrilled that we're moving forward with events. Hershey was amazing last year. I was so impressed with what you guys pulled off. That must have been difficult.
Yeah, it was, in the middle of still a pandemic and a lot of uncertainty. And the fact that we couldn't get the Canadians and the other internationals in. It still was a great crowd and great weather, and heard just amazing stories from the vendors this year. So all terrific, and of course our usually fabulous car show on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, which is amazing. It's so fun to watch that show. It's the pride and joy of those guys. It's just amazing what these guys have done with these cars. And, so many of the guys that have these cars do all their work themselves in their own garage, and they're creating these cars that are winning top awards and everything. And you find out, who professionally did that? Oh no, I did it in my garage. That's amazing. How do these guys? That's hard to do.
Yeah, I think it's a neat thing about this hobby. It's so inclusive. If you can do your own work, great. And there's tons of people out there. And if you have the means to go out and have a car professionally restored, you can do that as well. But when they all get together, they're all the same. They all put their pants on the same way.
That's exactly right.
And just get together.
Well, it's like what we say here is that your pride and joy may be 87 Monte Carlo, and my pride and joy may be a 65 Cobra, and everything in between. And we love that part of the hobby, because guess what? no different than the new car business. The guys, everybody starts out somewhere, and you may start out kind of, on the more affordable side of the hobby because there's a lot of cars that you can buy that are affordable. I mean, earlier 2000 and 1990s Corvettes come to mind. It's a great car, a lot of performance. You get admission to the club, and then you start from there. And who knows where it leads to. And then you get guys who, have the highest of the high-end cars, which you have a few of those in the lobby of your new building, I believe.
Yeah, we do.
How did you choose the cars that went in the lobby of your brand new building in Hershey?
Friends. I'm an Indy car guy, and so I have a great friend who has a huge collection of Indy cars,
Right.
and so we had to have one there. We do have a certified racing program. Great friend that has a collection, a guy that I worked with on the Elegance at Hershey when we had that Conqueror,
Right.
and he brought in his Delahaye, and of course we have a car from the NB collection in Allentown.
Sure.
Which 200 cars to choose from, so that was pretty easy. But the rest of the cars are cars we own.
Right,
So,
right.
And continue to. We just had a beautiful, beautiful 30 Hudson donated to us a
nice.
couple weeks ago.
Nice. Are you seeing the donations start to increase now with some of the? I mean, let's face it, the guys in the hobby that we've grown up with are starting to get to that age where we're going to see some collections starting to thin the herd and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's always fluid. It's always going one way or another, and there's going to be some really significant auctions coming up due to unfortunate
Sure.
deaths. But we're getting, now that we've got this big, beautiful new home, we're getting more and more people talking to us about their estate planning and
Right.
and considering us and calling us up and say, hey, could we donate a car to you?
Sure.
So. We've had a couple of those phone calls recently.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's there's 3 or 4 different options when you're selling a collection of cars, and one of them is to donate, and that's probably, truthfully, the least painful way to do it. I mean, I watch widows on the block at an auction and watching their cars go across, their husband's collection go across the block. And I'm not being sexist to say that it's a women and a man, but generally speaking, that's what it's been in the hobby. And they're distraught. It's a gut check. And so that's been the success of us doing estates and things like that here at our building, where it's not high pressure. It's not something that, that you got 90 seconds to make a decision. It's one of those things that you've got, 90 days to make a decision. And if I call you up, I'm not going to say either take this offer or you're missing out on the only opportunity you're going to get to sell it. We call up and say, hey, you got an offer? If you want to take it, great. If not, we'll keep working for you. We'll keep trying to get it sold for you. So I think that's a huge plus in what we do and what you do as well, too. And I applaud what you built down there. That new building is amazing.
Yeah, it is. I got to say, you just wrote an article for us in our Speedster, and I think you hit on the key thing. You just got to have a plan, whether it's a plan going with you guys or a plan donating if it's a single car or whatever. Have a plan,
Yeah.
because what we have seen over the years is just so many disasters because people have not taken care of their estate planning and left the spouse with and the family with just horrendous situations. And so, it's painful at times, but get it in writing.
Get it done and get it. I mean, I was going to mention that too. That I do an article article about once every 3 months for the AACA Speedster email blast that they do, and it's been fun. At first I felt pressure for doing it. I thought, oh man, I got to come up with an article, and I know you feel the same way because you have an article to come or two to come up with every year. But it's actually been invigorating. It's been like and it's all stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So it's all stuff that happens here in our building. The estate thing. I mean, I jokingly said in my article, I said, whatever you do on your deathbed, don't grab your wife and pull her down to you and say, whatever you do, honey, don't take less than $80,000 for the Corvette. Part of the problem that you run into with these estates is, and when you say the word estate, generally means a wealthy guy. And wealthy guys feel more invincible maybe than others. And they think if I estate plan, then maybe I won't risk the scourge of the Grim Reaper, but you should do it. And it requires more than just saying, okay, this is where I want the cars to be sold. somebody's going to have to get them running. Somebody's going to have to get them detailed. Are they still insured properly? Is the values based on them? I mean, there's a million things. So if you got a great collection, either bring it to me or Steve. I don't care either one. Just let's do it like 50-50. So we'll take half.
That works for me.
You get half. So I have a question that, you know, we all of us in the hobby and the business see these AACA badges, junior, senior, preservation, all that. In a nutshell, explain to a layman, what does that mean? What does a junior badge on a car mean, or a senior badge or a preservation badge mean on a car?
Well, AACA has been judging cars for decades, and we've developed a system. We actually have a pretty extensive judging program, and it allows people to climb the ladder with their cars. So the first award they go out for is their first junior, and this is for class judging. We have driver classes and we have original classes, but the first junior badge is a national first prize. It's the coveted oval that everybody wants to get on their car. But then we allow them to take a step up and to get a senior badge, and then they can go on for a grand national and a preservation. And we even have this new really, really special program where we take 2 cars from every one of our events and they go in competition for the Zenith Award, which is, our version of the Riddler Award, and,
Sure.
and it's for the most outstanding restoration of the year, and it's being extremely well received.
Yeah, the Zenith Award it's called, right?
Yep.
And that, funny that you mentioned about your judging guidelines. I was on your website yesterday, and the judging guideline is 132 pages. Oh my God,
it's evolved over the years.
That's fantastic.
And, we have a complete program for our judges. We have all sorts of awards our judges can earn based on longevity and other special awards, and we take it pretty seriously. We have continuous judges education at every one of our meets. We have judging schools at every. So the goal is to be, if you're going to be evaluating somebody's car, have the skill sets necessary to do it fairly.
Sure.
So it's an even program for everybody. So we work at that pretty hard.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Steve Moskowitz, the CEO of the AACA, here on Classic Auto Malls Podcast. And we are back with the Classic Auto Mall Podcast. If you need to reach us, if you got a question for me or for any of our guests or anybody, and it's live, or you're hearing it on Memorex, that tells me how old I am, podcast at classicautomall.com. If you got to reach Classic Auto Mall proper, because you have a car to sell or you have a question about a car or something along those lines, you can go to info at classicautomall.com. We answer our emails, almost 24 hours a day, it feels like. Some days we come in after a long weekend and you can't believe how many emails are sitting there in the inbox. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, sometimes a little overwhelming. We are visiting with Steve Moskowitz, the CEO of the AACA, which is just an hour west of us here in Hershey. And this is an amazing car culture around this part of the world. Why is that? Is it because of Hershey?
Well, yeah. We have a pretty dense population in this part of the United States, and a group of guys before 1935, but AACA started in 1935. They began these derbies, and they began the car hobby as we know it today, and it got too big for this area, and Hershey had this big stadium and a lot of philanthropic people, and we migrated to there, and of course Hershey's become this international amazing event, as you well know, when you can grab a couple 100,000 people over a few days to just live and breathe everything about the car hobby. I mean, it just doesn't get any more exciting than that.
And and the funny thing is it does not matter what the weather's doing. Yeah. If it's raining or snowing or sunny, people are there and they are prepared for it. They have their boots, they have their rain poncho, whatever they need. And if it's a beautiful sunny day, then they have their short sleeves and shorts. I mean, they are so dedicated to that event. That's an amazing thing that you guys have built over the years. And now, I know that that's the granddaddy of events, but there's other large events that you guys do all over the country. Charlotte, right?
Yeah, we're all over the country. We'll be in Melbourne here in a few weeks, and We'll be in Puerto Rico and for a pretty significant event. We'll be
Right.
out in Vegas. We're all over the United States.
Sure.
But Hershey's the biggest, and of course, when you have an event for 65 years, you develop this kind of following and
Get a good mailing list, right?
Yeah, you got a good mailing list. So it's the kind of event that when people close up for the last day and are heading home, they're just already starting to think about coming back next year.
Isn't that amazing? That's the funny thing is that people and they covet their spots. I mean, there's guys who've been on the same spot in the show field for ever, right? I mean, 50, 60 years.
Yeah, and then you listen to the arguments of who's been there the most, and
Yeah, the
somebody said,
longest.
well, I was in my mother's womb when she was walking through so I've been doing this longer. So they all argue about who's been there the longest.
That's fantastic. And you love it when people are proud of that badge of honor of being there that many years and enjoying that. And the camaraderie in this hobby business is amazing. I always tell people that the fun thing about being in the classic car business is you can be sitting at an auction, and on your left-hand side can be the guy who cleans the building, and on the right-hand guy can be the CEO of XYZ Corporation, and everybody is talking as if they're on the same page, and nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody's just digging the cars, whether it's a Concours d'Elegance, whether it's a local church car show, whether it's any of these, and everything in between, and auctions as well too. So the people are what make this hobby, and that's what obviously you guys are. As we progress through the years, there's got to be things that you guys are looking at. And where do you see the future with your club and the hobby?
Well, we're pretty bullish on it. We just invested in this major new facility
Right.
that shows that we are all in. We believe this is a unique hobby, and that no matter how many people want to forecast doom and gloom, there's something special about what you see in this building and what we see at our events. Cars evoke so many different kinds of emotions. So we're bullish, but we also recognize we need to kind of see where the trends are going, and we may need to have some new types of activities, which we're already doing. And
Right.
we're blowing up our website this month to have an all-new website that's really going to be geared a bit younger and
Sure.
and just a little more hip and exciting. So we're going forward. The board of directors, we're nonstop thinking about what do we have to do to remain relevant.
Right.
And there's always people are going to be successful no matter what. And so
Right.
the saying that about creating your own destiny, I absolutely believe in it, and we
Yeah.
believe in it. And so we've got a big investment, and we plan on continuing to try to
Sure.
meet the needs of our membership and the car hobby.
And we're right there with you. I mean, we do this for love first, and yes, we're in it to make a profit. Yes, we're in it to pay the bills and to pay our staff and all that. But we love it. I mean, it's what we love. And I hire car specialists, not car salesmen. I don't want a guy who can sell ice to an Eskimo. That's not what I think, because that turns people off from the hobby. But one of the things that we're starting to do, and what we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate into what we do, is to get the kids involved, which is what you and I have had conversations about this before, get the kids involved. And one of the ways is that we want to give them a badge that they can wear to any car event that they go to. And it means that what that badge signifies is that they understand that they're not to touch the cars or stand on the cars or run their fingers down a car, and they're to respect the cars in the hobby. And therefore we're gonna reward them, and whether they go to Hershey or come to the Classic Auto Mall or go to an auction or wherever they're around classic cars or car shows and displays, that they would wear their badge and they would be recognized as one of the pioneers of the children, the next generation coming along. Because the next generation, we're seeing it already here. I mean, we're seeing it in the tuner cars and the Supras and the Nissan 300ZX twin turbos and all of that. Of course, you see cars like that in your shows.
Sure.
You're not limited to just pre-war Duesenbergs and Rolls Royces, right?
Yeah, that's the big difference in the AAC and all the other clubs. We are so inclusive. We're, from the late 1800s all the way up to anything that's 25 years or older.
Sure.
European, Asian, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We're all about the cars.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what our folks love being at Hershey, because you can see everything from a restored dump truck to a Duesenberg.
Sure.
And if you're a car guy, you just love seeing that breadth of vehicles.
I think the question that bothers me the most that I get, and I know you get it all the time, is what's your favorite car? And it doesn't bother me only in the fact that I have so many favorite cars. There are so many cars that I like for different reasons, and I appreciate all of them. There are certain segments of the hobby that I care less about than I care about some of the other things. But at the end of the day, the passion is what's fun about it. I mean, the guys who come out here when we have a car show out here, and you see it at your events, and they're sitting in their folding chair, and they're there for 14 hours, and all day long they're talking about their car. That's their pride and joy. That's their baby, and I think that's the thing that's going to continue to make the hobby, grow and continue to flourish and become, relevant to other age groups. Everybody keeps predicting the death of the Model A, and I still sell a lot of Model A's. People say, oh, that you can't sell those anymore. There's no market for those. That's wrong. And the Duesenberg market got pretty soft there for a while. I remember a friend of mine bought a 3 Duesenberg package, paid $400,000 a piece for J-body Duesenbergs back in 99 or 2000 or somewhere around there. And now, you can't touch those cars for less than probably 900 to $1 million, I would imagine. So, and people said those will probably be gone, but they're not. They're still here.
I'm sort of a brass car guy,
Right.
And even when I got into it, people are saying, "Oh, nobody's going to want these." Well, it's the opposite of what happened. They went out of sight, particularly the high horsepower cars. They've softened up a little bit now, but there's still plenty of people out there buying them.
Sure.
So, there's always people that'll look, at something being negative and trying to find reasons why things aren't going to work. I don't understand that attitude, but
Right.
you and I are alike. We're optimists. We're going to charge ahead, and I think most of the hobby is that way.
I think so too. And part of the success of the brass era cars, believe it or not, is a little old event in England. And the London to Brighton thing. And I mean, there are guys who have never been in a brass car who tell me that's one on my bucket list. I think we're going to get a car and we're going to go do London to Brighton. And these are guys who own muscle cars and do the power tour on the, Hot Rod Magazine power tour, or do the Great Race or any of these other things. That's part of their bucket list. And of course it has to be that's really a brass car, because they have to be
1904 and below.
And below. And so that's, but I got to imagine that one of your favorites has got to be the Limited, 1911.
Well, the Limiteds went from 1910 to 1912,
Right.
and we actually own the 1908 prototype
Wow.
in our lobby. But I've worked on a 1911 Limited for General Motors. We restored
Sure.
it for them in the late 90s, and so I've got a bunch of driving time behind those, and they're just monster cars.
Oh,
and
man.
So they're, being an Olds guy, it's a pretty special car
Yeah.
with me.
Oldsmobiles are pretty special cars too, even from my era of growing up. The W cars from the 70s and 60s, and all the high horsepower stuff that came out during that era. Oldsmobiles were really cool. They were a little more sophisticated, the guy who bought the Oldsmobile, than maybe the guy with the Chevy or the Ford. And that's not saying any knock on them, but it just was the way the market was. It was funny. The rich people in town drove the Buicks and the Oldsmobiles, and the middle class drove the Cadillacs, because different mindset of what they have. But that Limited is a beautiful. I've seen that one in your lobby. Man, oh man, that's a gorgeous car. If you don't appreciate a car like that, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's a head turner.
But what you said a minute ago about the memories and all that is that we see, and here especially, because we don't charge admission for people to come in to see the cars, is that the wife or the kids will come in, because if there was an admission fee, maybe they wouldn't. They may stay out in the car. The kids may get on their phone and not pay any attention. But what happens is that the memories that are evoked from here, people will say, well, I'm not into cars. And they come in here and they come to me later and they go, oh my God, I saw the car that my grandfather drove, or I saw the car that the cool kid down the street had, or whatever the case may be. That happens all the time. This is nostalgia. This is not just the car culture. This is Americana. I mean, this is our whole last 100 years of our life or better. So I'm very optimistic about it, and I think that as long as we have people like me or you who feel optimistic about it, and others that are in the hobby that we see on a regular basis, McKeel Hagerty with Hagerty Insurance, and all the auction houses and all those people that are bullish on it, and some of them arguably for financial reasons as well too, and that's okay. Listen, it takes a village to do everything, and you have to have a guy who's going to make money on it. You have to have a not-for-profit like you guys are, and you have to have guys like us who are kind of tweeners. So we'll be back, and we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Moskowitz, and when we return here at the Classic Auto Mall podcast. And we are back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast. That's all right. Just keep me on my toes, guys, because it's 18 degrees here. Just so everybody needs to know down in Atlanta. I hope it's nice and warm down there, guys, because we're cold up here. We're going to invest in some new heaters that are silent. We're speaking to Steve Moskowitz here in the studio with us, the CEO of the Antique Automobile Club of America. How many years have you been in that position with the... I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask that. I didn't mean to put you...
Take a deep breath there. Believe it or not, it's been about 18 years now.
Oh, wow. That's serious longevity in this day and age. I get resumes from people that come here that want to work, and it's like, been here a year, 6 months here, 5 months here, 4 months here, a year here, 2. I mean, there's not longevity like we used to see. My grandfather worked for the same company his whole entire life.
Well, my last gig was 30 years, so I mean, I move around a lot.
Yeah, I hear you. So we talked about the junior, senior, the preservation, the Zenith Award. Last year's winner was a 17 Locomobile that won in the Zenith Award. And is that held at different places across the country?
We hold it in conjunction with our Grand National meets.
Right.
The synergy between the two events works really, really well, and we're going into our 6th year now. One of our board members came up with the idea, Tom Cox, and him and I started working on it, and it's really been a real fun thing to watch.
Sure.
Because without any pre-planning, we've ended up with a great mix of cars every year, cars, even a truck. So that when we get into judging these cars for the best of the best, we're looking at everything from a 17 Locomobile to a modern muscle car and everything in between, and they're all, to begin with, virtually perfect cars.
And has I know that for example at Pebble Beach that post-war cars haven't done terribly well over the years. Are you seeing post-war cars that are going to win the Zenith Award, or have they won it?
2 years ago, we had a '58 Buick station wagon win it.
I love station wagons.
Boy, that was an interesting judging session.
Sure.
But we just kept coming back to
Right.
the difficulty of restoring a wagon. In '58 they had more chrome on it than you can imagine. And
Exactly.
the gentleman that restored it did a phenomenal job, and it was very exciting. So we don't try to push it in any one direction.
Sure.
The winner's the winner. The car should speak for itself.
Right.
But we've been fortunate enough to have full classics and post-war cars.
Sure.
And this year, who knows?
Yeah, you never know what's going to be next. And the great thing, there's a great car, a Valiant station wagon right out there in our parking lot. That is really a cool car. That's one you don't see very often.
I was about to say that myself.
That is. Now, do you
station wagon? That's unique.
Yeah. Now, do you judge at shows anymore yourself, or do you
Yeah,
have to...
well, I'm doing a few concours. I'll be at Boca and I'll be at probably Greenbrier if I'm asked back again, and I'll be at Amelia Island, and I judge for national awards with our club as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's important to kind of keep your finger on the pulse, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it, and I enjoy meeting the people.
Sure.
And it's interesting process here. In a few weeks, we'll be giving out. We have special awards every year for like the best Oldsmobile, the best Pontiac, the best Buick.
Right.
So our version of the Academy Awards, and we'll be giving those out. And it's having won one of those before I ever took this job. I know how important it is, and I know how it makes the members and feel that all the work that they've done, the validation of it to get awards like that. So it's a part of the hobby. It's a good part of the hobby, and so I enjoy being a part of it.
Well, and I think that's, nothing worse than building something and not getting anybody noticing. You build something and you put your heart and soul into it, and nobody pats you on the back and says, what a great job you did. And so it's nice that we have that. And Amelia would be interesting this year now that Haggerty has pulled it into its fold. It'll be, and then probably a blessing for Bill Warner, because I imagine that I'm sure he wasn't quite sure what he was going to do with that event. I mean, at some point in time, he's going to retire, and of course he has now. And so, but it'll be interesting to see. I have a feeling that not much is going to change. I hope. That's my hope for it. Maybe I'm wishful thinking. I don't know.
We're all sitting back. This year is probably going to be pretty similar, but there'll probably be. Everybody wants to put their own stamp on something, and so there'll probably be some changes. And losing Bill, I mean, Bill's one of the most unique people in the entire car hobby, and his connection with the world of racing, nobody else has it.
Right.
Nobody.
You can't duplicate that.
Yeah, you can't duplicate that. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that, or if they change that whole thing. But it's still a great event.
I love Amelia.
I love being there.
I do too. I absolutely love Amelia Island. I tell you what, and again, it's one of those events that sometimes it can be kind of crappy weather, and it doesn't matter, because I still have a great time every time I go there. And nothing better than sitting at the hoity-toity bar at the Ritz-Carlton, and next to you is Bobby Rahal, and on his other side is David Hobbs, and over there is Hurley Haywood. I mean, it's like a who's who of the car world, and they're all right there.
I saw you there the last time, and I was just, wow.
Look, Stewart's here, all the way from Pennsylvania. It's funny. I ran into a guy down there that I'd seen at the subway here in Morgantown the day before, and he's like, well, this is weird. So I see you at the subway in Morgantown, PA on Wednesday, and on Thursday we're here at Amelia Island. And I love Amelia. I love Concord events because they're just, the cars are just spectacular, and you see things, generally speaking, at a Concours d'Elegance that you don't see anywhere else. I mean, and that's the cool thing about it. I love that these guys get their cars out. I love that they're rewarded for driving the cars in these events as well, too, having the tours. And if there's a tie between two cars, and if one didn't participate in the tour, then the nod would go to the one that did. I think that's a fantastic thing. One of the things that you were involved in that I didn't realize until today when I was doing my investigative background research on you.
I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, was the involvement with the Heritage Collection, the General Motors Heritage Collection.
Yeah, I used to work for Oldsmobile. I was a district service manager for Oldsmobile, and ended up, after becoming a dealer, on all sorts of Oldsmobile committees and on their national board. And the 1911 was the first car we did for them. It got damaged down in Busch Gardens, and the general manager at Oldsmobile called me up. What do we do? I said, well, there's nothing else to do now but to restore the car. So we restored that one, and a new general manager came in for Oldsmobile, John Rock, my personal hero, the most amazing human being I've met in my life. And he had a great sense for history and what it meant. And he literally opened up the checkbook and sent me around. He said, I want one of these, I want one of these, I want one of these. I went around the country on Oldsmobile's dime buying cars. And then my best friend owned a restoration shop in Beecher, Illinois, and we started restoring those cars there.
Fantastic.
And so I got to do a lot of really unique events based on that relationship.
Sure. I was at the Chattanooga Concours d'Elegance not too long ago, and the Heritage Center had brought out two of the Firebirds from the 50s that looked like airplanes with wheels on them. And I said to the guy who worked for the Heritage Collection, I said, this is fantastic. I said, why don't we see more of these? Why aren't these cars? They're hidden in a warehouse that you can't even go visit. Why are these cars not out and available to be seen? Do you think that if you showed that Firebird airplane-looking car to a group of kids in Peoria, Illinois. Why I picked that. Is even Peoria in Illinois? No, that's
Yes,
Iowa.
yes.
All right. There's my geography. That they would be blown away by that car. And that's a car that was built 60 years ago. And so those cars need to be shared, but I guess for whatever reason, but it was encouraging to see them at Chattanooga. But it'd sure be nice to see some of those cars hit the light of day.
It's an absolutely amazing collection with hundreds and hundreds of cars, and it's there's some of my personal cars in the collection.
Right. Wow.
Unfortunately, I'd like to have them back.
Yeah,
but there are some really, really amazing cars, and at one time I had actually talked to the CEO at GM about a museum, and it's just I think a situation of money and time.
Sure, yeah. And it's a shame because I think that it's difficult. It's hard for them to probably monetize it. Although I think that truthfully it would monetize itself because it would lend recognition to the brands and all that. But nonetheless, anyway, Steve, certainly a pleasure having you on today. I know you're right here in our backyard. I appreciate you coming in and freezing your butt off in our 18-degree studio. I think it's 19 in the studio. So a couple of things that we didn't do last week. But again, thank you for being here, and we really appreciate you being here. We have the 4 on the floor. Now, the 4 on the floor, we give you 4 clues, and you send an email to podcast@Classic Auto Mall, guessing which car it is, and it has to be the specific stock number, year, make, and model of a car that's in our inventory. It's not just a generic 60, or a Chevy Camaro or a Corvette. It's a specific car, and 4 clues, and you should be able to figure this out so easy, and I never figure them out. So the first clue is Orphan Brand. For those of you who don't know what Orphan Brand, it means a car that's no longer manufactured. So that could be DeSoto, that could be oddball things. Pontiac. Pontiac's not oddball. Okay, so first clue, Orphan Brand. Second clue, Sun Tilt. Don't know what that means. Born in Wilmington is clue number 3. And clue number 4 is 7,000 orders in first 10 days of availability. So those are your 4 clues for our 4 on the floor. Podcast@ClassicAutomall.com if you have the answer, and I'll send you a hat or a T-shirt. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to send you a hat because then you don't have to tell me what size you are, and I don't want to embarrass you. So in the past 3 weeks, we've sold a bunch of cars to a bunch of places, and we haven't gone through the list. So I'm going to really go through them quickly. So in the past 3 weeks, we've sold a car to Las Vegas, Nevada, Corona, California, White Pine, Tennessee, Collegeville, Pennsylvania, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Coopersburg, Pennsylvania, Honeybrook, Pennsylvania, Ottsville, Pennsylvania, Cape May, New Jersey, Dyersburg, Tennessee, West Plains, Missouri, Ambler, Pennsylvania, Miami, Florida, Abilene, Texas, Mecosta, Michigan, Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Richmond, California, Whiteford, Maryland, Plano, Texas, Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Henderson, Nevada, Howell, New Jersey, Reading, Pennsylvania, Malvern, Pennsylvania, Pearl, Mississippi, Glen Elg, Maryland, Oakland, Maryland, Nantucket, Massachusetts, Erlanger, Kentucky, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, San Antonio, Texas, Auburn, Pennsylvania, El Centro, California, Irwin, Pennsylvania, Betterton, Maryland, Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, Greer, South Carolina, Rocky Mount, Virginia, Tucson, Arizona, and Leesport, Pennsylvania. Woo! Wow. I think I got a little head rush.
I think we got a head rush listening to that. Oh, good Lord.
I didn't know that I was going to get through that
There's
or not.
a lot of places.
That is all over the world. But anyway, thanks for listening. Oh, and thanks again to Steve Moskowitz for being on the show from the AACA. If you get a chance, join the club, be a part of it, get involved. It's a great hobby. You'll love everybody that you meet in it, and we'll talk to you next week. Steve, take it away.
Yeah, I just want to mention before we go into our closing that we do have social media. I would love everybody to follow us there on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Classic Auto Mall. Some great stuff going on there and some fun stuff. And the 4 on the floor appears there as well. So if you missed the clues, you can go on TikTok and Instagram and check them out there. We appreciate your listening to our show today. And don't forget, when you're in southeastern Pennsylvania, come visit us in person. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday is our late day, and we're here from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays we're open from 9 a.m. to noon, and we are closed on Sundays. You can reach us by telephone at 888-227-0914 or via email at info@classicautomall.com. To reach the show, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. The Classic Auto Mall podcast is produced by Car Smarts Media. Theme song by the Pat Travers Band.